Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And welcome to today's webinar, wherein we are going to showcase the RFPflow demo. So before I quickly go through demo, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Maddie. I'm part of the Aavenir's marketing team, and thank you for taking your time out and joining the webinar. So just a quick housekeeping items before we go through the webinar is, this webinar is for 30 minutes and wherein we are going to have a presentation of 10 minutes wherein we'll understand the current challenges which you face in the RFP process. Then we will have a quick look at the demo which we have developed, and then we'll go through the Q&A. So we are recording this webinar, and while we are discussing, about or what we are discussing about the RFP challenges, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A panel, which is there in the Zoom chat window or the Zoom dialog box. And also to make the session more interactive, I'll be, we'll be doing some polls so that we are well suited to understand, what are your challenges. So with that, I'd like to introduce the presenter for today, Jesal, who is the founder and CEO of Aavenir, wherein we develop innovative source-to-pay products on ServiceNow platform. The founding team at Aavenir has deep domain expertise with the apps wherein we build using AI and machine learning technologies. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Jesal to share in the experience and his expertise for the RFP, and how we can simplify our strategic sourcing operations on ServiceNow. Over to you, Jason.
Okay, thank you very much, Maddie. And thank you very much for a lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. And today we have participants from several continents, participants from Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, China, and India. So a pretty good presence this morning. Thank you for joining. As Maddie rightly mentioned, Aavenir offers complete source-to-pay suite on ServiceNow platform. However, today we are going to talk about the RFX management as part of the e-sourcing initiative. By the way, when we refer to RFX, we actually mean RFI, RFP, and RFQ, because a product, you can actually build any of these instruments as part of your e-sourcing initiative. All right. So since you are on this call, it is apparent that RFP management is your pain point. Do any one of your anyone of you have faced any of these challenges that sound familiar to you, which is on the screen right now? For example, you struggle in collaborating with suppliers on one hand, but also struggle in collaborating internally with your stakeholders. Collaboration has become a major issue, especially in this pandemic era, because everybody is working from home. Everybody is not working in the same time slots, and therefore collaboration has become a challenge. You also struggle and waste unreasonable amount of time in collecting feedback and considering the feedback, and initially and finally coming out with the top 2 or top 3 suppliers. Isn't it a nightmare? And needless to say that this results in extended RFP cycle. Maddie, next please. Thank you. So Aavenir RFPflow is attempting to address precisely those issues that we listed on the earlier slide. Let's see, how does RFPflow work and address these issues for you. The RFPflow product has 4 stages: prepare, publish, collaborate, and evaluate. As a part of the prepare step, you prepare the RFP using the standardized questions from the question library, or you type your own. Prepare the team that consists of evaluators, the project managers, and approvers. Assign the appropriate milestones and the corresponding reminders for you to make sure that you are sticking to those dates. This will put the structure to your RFP preparation, and it will also expedite your RFP preparation significantly. You are making the system process-driven instead of person-driven. Once the RFP is prepared, you can select the suppliers you want to publish this RFP to. The system will give you a recommendation of which vendor should be invited. That can be based on the past vendor performance or any other criteria that you may choose. As you can imagine, this can take the guesswork out of your vendor selection process. And guess what? When the RFP is published, an individualized RFP is sent to each vendor. We actually insert a hidden property in each of the RFP that is sent out. Now, when the RFP response comes back via regular email, they just respond to the email that you have sent across. For them, it's a regular work for the supplier. There's no change in behavior on their end. But our system identifies who that RFP is coming from. And this is where our major differentiator as an RFP flow that we offers. We actually identify these responses, take out the RFP responses, deconstructs that response, and take the responses out of that, just a question response, right? So just a response out of that RFP response document. And that will allow your evaluators to now look at responses from different suppliers side by side as well. Once the RFP responses are received, the system will automatically initiate the evaluation workflow and notify all the evaluators to start evaluating the vendor responses. No need to manually send the vendor responses over email to the right stakeholders, and guess what? Follow up with them as well. Finally, the evaluators start scoring supplier responses. Based on the preset weightage given to all sections and questions, all those scores are aggregated and are assigned to each vendor. Now you've got aggregated RFP score for each of your vendor. No need to prepare Excel sheets and no need to reconcile scores from all evaluators and coordinating over emails or phone calls. It is all done automatically for you. All right, that brings up to the first poll of the day. The question is, which part of RFP process is the most challenging for you? Mehdi, can you bring up the options, please? You have 5 options. Okay, thank you. And can you flash the score for me, please? Interesting. So as I see in this one, which is very consistent, 86% of the respondents have said internal collaboration with between stakeholders and supplier collaboration have been their biggest challenges. So that's significant. It comes out pretty loud and clear that collaboration is one of the biggest challenges for any sourcing professional who is working on RFP. Thank you, Mehdi, for that. Moving on to the next slide, if you can. Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, all the Aavenir source-to-pay applications are built natively on ServiceNow. So what you can see underlying in the bottom is the ServiceNow platform. So all of our applications are built natively on ServiceNow. All the data is stored on ServiceNow only. And so as long as you have ServiceNow user login, same login would work here as well. How does that work, and how do you really get that application if you already have the ServiceNow platform with you? So this app can be effectively delivered and made it available very easily using ServiceNow App Store. So what is ServiceNow App Store? The ServiceNow Store is a marketplace for both free and paid applications explicitly developed on ServiceNow platform. Every ServiceNow Store app is created and supported by ServiceNow technology partners. ServiceNow has also verified every application's compatibility with the platform and its security. It is not very different than going to Apple App Store to download an app for your iPhone. So it's very similar process. Aavenir RFPflow is one of those certified apps on the ServiceNow App Store. You just have to go there and download the app from there. You can also download the trial version of the app from the same location. That brings up to the next poll for the day. Have you used any apps from ServiceNow App Store? Mehdi, can you bring up the question? Yeah. All right. Have you used any apps from the ServiceNow App Store? Options are yes and not yet. Thank you, Mehdi. Let's flash the response rate for me. It's pretty half and half. Looks like, well, close to half and half. Around 58% of the respondents say that they have used the ServiceNow App Store before, and around 48% says no, they have not used this App Store. So it's pretty, it should not be difficult. Go to App Store and you will be able to access any lot of other apps in addition to all the Aavenir apps as well. Go to the next slide, Maddie. Thank you. Along with this webinar today, we are announcing the template central. So if you are a sourcing professional, you would have faced the challenges where when your boss asks you to start a sourcing of any particular activity, you have to scramble and look for the RFP templates, which template to use, which industry standard template that you can use. So to get you started, and obviously you're going to put in some more information that is specific to your requirement, but you want a baseline to start with. So today we are announcing Template Central. You can get RFP templates, industry standard RFP templates on our website, free. You do not have to be using Aavenir applications. You just go to our website and you'll be able to download the RFP templates. We have few templates for your IT procurement, for your hardware procurement, for your some HR and office supply procurement, and we will be enriching that library as we move along. All right, so with that, it's time to start looking at the product. Let me know when you can see my screen, Barry.
Yeah, good to go.
All right, wonderful. So this is what our RFPflow product. The first, what I want to show you is this is everything that is built on ServiceNow. What you see here is a bunch of options on the left side. But what this is an RFP, I'm going to just show you what the RFP is going to look like once you are done and dusted with, so you can get an idea. So this is what I call it, the RFP snapshot. So let's say this RFP is for website revamping of your organization. Lisa has logged in, and the RFP number, the budget she had assigned to, she invited 8 vendors and 4 of them responded. So these 8 vendors were invited and 4 of them have responded to this RFP. You can see these 2 vendors have been evaluated by the evaluators as well, while these 2, Salient and Repute Info, we have received the response, but we have not really evaluated them. Let's say I go here, you can see the score here on the 65.8%. That is the score given, the aggregate score that is given to Acme APAC. If you want to double click and see the score of individual sections, because an RFP consists of different sections. In this case, there are 3 sections, and you can see the score given to each section. Remember, this score is an aggregation of the responses from all the evaluators. So this score is calculated automatically, calculated from the scores that are given by the individual evaluators, and then based on the weighted average that's given, now you can arrive at an aggregate score for a particular vendor. Similarly, you can see different score for different vendors as well. In addition to just seeing the numbers, this is just a score based on what they have responded. But there are a couple of other things. You can actually go to social score, and you can see what are people saying about that vendor in public domain. So there are industry listings which actually allows you to as a user to rate that vendor. So we can actually go and pull out that data for that individual vendor to help you kind of get all that information on one screen instead of you going to G2 Crowd or Capterra or Getter and get that information as well. You can see all the email activity with that vendor here on this screen. Once all that is done, assuming that you are good with that, you can actually click on award bid, and that that vendor will be awarded the bid. You can actually click on create contract. So when you click on create contract, I'm just going to do a quick click, and it directly takes you to Aavenir contract flow, which is a contract management solution. So directly jump onto that, and you can create a contract directly from there. So you don't need to really take the data, the RFP data, go to the system and re-enter while creating a contract. So you can also see the document, the RFP document that was sent across. Just click on that. You can see this was a document that was sent across. This kind of a preview that you can see here as well. Okay, so this was the RFP snapshot, which shows partly the responses that you received, the scoring and all that. But now let's take a step back and see how do you create an RFP. Let me just go back and start with creating a sourcing event. For us, sourcing event is an activity which usually a board approves a sourcing of the fund for a particular activity, and that's a sourcing event. Underneath that, you may have multiple RFPs, because if you're buying something, you may buy hardware for that, you may buy software for that, and you might end up doing separate tender or separate RFP for that. All that can be captured here. Let's say I want to create, have an HR application for employee onboarding. Let's say I want it's a software. The business owner is, let's say, able. You can have RFI, RFP, or RFQ, all different stages in that sequence. But for demo purpose, I'm just going to select an RFP. It is for HR department, and let's say you have been given $100,000 of the budget for that, and you say, okay, save changes. Now the sourcing event is created, and now you are ready to create an RFP underneath that. So you are creating an RFP. Had you selected RFI and RFQ, you will see all that in that list as well. You click on RFP. Now you actually land on the RFP creation process. So remember the 4 stages: prepare, publish, collaborate, and evaluate. The 4 steps that we are talking about. Currently, we are talking about the prepare stage, where we are preparing the RFP. You can see most of the information has already been filled in. You can select the standardized template that you want to use, and that template may contain some generic information, some terms and conditions, which are not really questions, but that's the information that you are imparting to your suppliers. So as you can see here, while creating an RFP, there are 6 steps that you follow. You create RFP, you assign team, you assign the milestones, create the questions, select vendors, and publish. These are the 6 steps of wizard that you have to follow. So now we are the assigned team. Let's say I'm assigning able tutor as an evaluator. Let's say Lisa, myself, I'm going to make myself a project manager. I can also have, let's say, somebody like Eileen as an additional evaluator, and so on and so forth. You can actually create a long list of your team. Typically, you will have 5 to 7 evaluators, a project manager, a couple of approvers. So you can have those roles and you can prepare your team. Now your team is prepared, and you hit on save and next. Now you are ready to set the milestones for you. So milestones are any dates that you want to stipulate as part of your RFP or tender sourcing cycle. So if I click on add milestones, you can see the list of milestones. These are 7 steps that we come out of the box, but you can add your own to this list as well. Let's say supplier communication is applicable from 18th of this month to 22nd of that month. After that, I'm not going to expect or entertain any responses, communications with supplier. I can set the, the reminders for that. And I said before the due date, remind me on that. So you have already have the supply, the reminder set for that. Similarly, you can add multiple milestones. Typically, you would have the milestones for when do you want to start the evaluation process, when the supplier responses should be received. All these different milestones you can set on this particular screen. And that's pretty flexible. For each of the milestones, you can have multiple reminders sent to multiple people as well. Clicking on save and next. This is when I know how to click. There it is. That takes you to the next step of the process, which is creating questions. Remember, we assigned teams, we assigned milestones, and now we're at the create questions. Now here, you can have multiple sections. So I can say this is general section. I can have specifications. These are different sections here. You can have pricing section. You can have support section, different section. In each of these sections, you can have multiple questions. On this one, let's say I can type in a question like, please provide info about your company. Or I can go and add questions directly from the question library. I can add a question here. Let's say on pricing, I have multiple questions. So I can go to question library, select this, multiple questions under one section. So you can have as many sections, as many sections, and each section will have multiple question as well. So this is where I expect that you end up spending most amount of your time as well. You can also register this. Let's say this is a brand new question that you typed in. You can directly add it to your question library directly from here. You can assign the weightage. So you can just say, okay, general is 10%, specification is 20%, pricing is 30%, support is 40%, and that makes your 100% weightage. So this is where your questionnaire is prepared. You can actually click on view as a document. You can see the actual document, how that's going to look to the other party. Now you've created the question, assigned the milestone, prepared the team, and now you are at the screen of selecting the vendor. What you see here is a short list of vendors that we have proposed based on the rules that's been put behind the scene. And those rules can be anything. You want to see only those vendors that have performed 8 out of 10 in last 12 months. Or at times, because if you're a government or agency, you may have to do some diversity criteria as well. You have to meet those. So you can select any criteria that you choose from that. Let's say I'm going to select this. Click. And so you selected multiple suppliers, or you can create a brand new supplier from here. So this is a supplier that you have selected, whom you are publishing this RFP to. Click on this, and you are ready to send the email to all the suppliers. You can type it in email, or you can select the out-of-the-box email template that we provide, and you click on publish. When you click on publish, what happens is every supplier is going to get an individualized email, customized. That word will be customized. We started looking, but there will be a hidden property provided by us inside that. They will receive that, and all the communication will happen over that email. On their end, nothing changes. They will continue operating just like how they are operating. Suppliers are. They will use the Microsoft Word, respond, prepare the response in Microsoft Word, send it back to you. They send it back to the same email. Our system behind the scene will monitor that email. As soon as the emails are coming in with that response, we'll pick it up. And the beauty of this is we'll deconstruct that document automatically and create the different responses out of that. So because in interest of time, I can't go back and respond to all the RFPs. So I'm just taking on the RFP that already been responded to in past. Let me just make sure I pick the right RFPs from here. This one was it? Yeah, this is what it is. So as you can see, this is one I had shown earlier. So you can see a few of them are already responded and evaluated. Let's say Repute info response has been received, and now the evaluators are getting an email to evaluate that supply. So click on that and you say start scoring. So the vendors that still need to be evaluated, you can actually say, let's start evaluating them. So now you can see all the responses from this. So you can see all the responses that have come in. I can just say 5 here, 6 here, and so on and so forth. So you can actually, I think I have to just go to the interest of time. I'm just not going through that right now because that will take time. So I'm just going to hit the back button and go back to the screen. So essentially what's going to happen is this is going to be calculated, and you can see the response that will come back on here on the snapshot screen. Now that vendor will be evaluated and will be graded as per the response from all the evaluators as well. Let's say the other beauty of this is it's not only aggregated for you, but you can actually see their responses side by side. Let's say I want to compare these two vendors side by side. I click on compare and I can see both the responses side by side as well. Not only the scores, but I can click on I and I can actually see the responses side by side as well for this question, company, introduction, background, what Acme is written and what Infocus system is written. I can see all of that as well. Similarly, you can go here and you can see all the responses side by side as well. You can see here, and that's beauty of it. It's like going to Amazon, and when you are comparing two products side by side, you can see and get a lot of value out of it when you are making a decision on this one. So a lot to actually cover. In interest of time, I'm going to pause here. I think we have covered quite a bit, and any more information, we'll be happy to set up a separate detailed demo for any one of you. Mehdi, if you can take it back.
Yeah, sure, Jason. Can you please stop sharing the screen?
Yep. There you go. So, Mehdi, I know we have one last slide, which is just talks about the licensing. And I want to quickly touch upon that. Our licensing is it's pretty flexible. We do not charge for approvers, evaluators, because those are the numbers that you usually don't have control over and may change from RFP to RFP. So we only charge you for the buyer or the program manager who actually is the quarterback, who is kind of managing the whole process. We only charged you for that. Okay, moving on. I think the last few minutes that we have, any Q&A that we have. Mehdi, do we have any questions?
Yes, Jesal. So if we go to the chat window, there are a couple of questions which we have received.
Okay.
So there are about 5 questions which we have received. Yeah, so I just first question is how many RFPs can this tool manage at a time?
Any number of RFPs. There's no limit to that. You can have multiple RFPs in parallel in flight as well.
Okay. Second question is, can I import vendors from ServiceNow vendor module?
Very good question. This actually is the ServiceNow vendor module. So all the vendors that you see is actually coming from ServiceNow vendor. So there is no need to import from there. If you already have suppliers or vendors in ServiceNow, that's the same supplier we are talking about.
Okay, great. The next question is, where does my RFP data get stored?
All the RFP data is stored in ServiceNow in our custom table that we create as part of our application. So it's not stored outside, it's stored all in ServiceNow.
Okay, okay, that's great. Because from data governance, that's very important.
Yep,
Uh,
yep, yep.
can I use my ServiceNow apps through mobile?
Yeah, so typically for a approval, you can certainly do that. Usually, very heavy text-based application like RFP, creation of RFP, you may not be actually do that. But approvals and stuff, you can certainly do that from your ServiceNow mobile app that you may have today.
Okay, great. So the next question is a tricky one. So what are the ways of engagement for adopting RFP flow on ServiceNow?
Not sure if I understand the question on the ways of engagement, but let me try to address that the best that I can. So typically you work with us, you download the app and we are your provider. We will work with you for initial setup, should be pretty quick. In a couple of days, you should be up and running and you should be ready to start creating your RFP pretty much in the first week itself.
Okay, great. And the last question, I think you have already answered the question, but the question is, how much time does it take to deploy the entire RFP flow application on our ServiceNow instance?
Should be days, depending on if there are any integration needs to be done and stuff. But I don't expect it to be more than few days. I mean,
Okay.
if it's pretty simple, I actually would be keen to get you started in the first week itself. I'd be surprised if you can't get you started in the first week.
Okay, I think that were the questions which we got.
Very good
And
question. Very interactive participants, guys. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Jesal Mehta, and we'll be happy to support any requirements, any questions you might have. Thank you. Ready?
yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. And if you have any questions, I would request you to please do visit our website, or just simply email us at contact@avenir.com. And also, don't forget to leverage the RFP templates, which is part of our giveaway for the webinar. So, which will really help you to streamline and, simplify your RFP process and strategic sourcing. So with that, I would be ending this session, and thank you again and have a great day. Bye for now.